You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life, drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Well, welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California. And I know you have been noticing something strange is in the air. It's like there's kind of a spiritual warfare going on. I don't know if you noticed, but I saw on Facebook clearly advertising Satan's shoes. And they're like $1,000 a piece, and they actually have blood in them. What is going on? So I decided to reach out to Daryl Smith, who's an empath and actually teaches empath education. He's absolutely brilliant, and he would absolutely know exactly what we need to do so that we're not adversely affected. And I know a lot of the listeners are empath. They are spiritually inclined. This is the law of attraction. We believe in the universe. We believe in everything. But now it's time to really get into understanding that perhaps we ought to understand a little bit more of the dark side of what's happening. So let's take a fast commercial break and we'll be right back with Mr. Daryl Smith. You're going to love this show. You're going to get so much out of it. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's here, it's hot, and it's a must read. It's the science behind the Law of Attraction magazine. Every issue brings you great articles and in-depth how-tos from all your favorite Law of Attraction experts, authors, scientists, and medical professionals. Go to lawofattractionmagazine.net. That's lawofattractionmagazine.net.
Did you know that every human uses only a small portion of their powerful mind? Jules Johnson, international certified hypnotherapist, wants to introduce you to your powerful mind in order to create your dream life. In as little as one session, Jules guides you into releasing limiting beliefs that keep you from achieving wealth, health, better relationships, and even true love. Schedule a session in Palm Springs or set up a Skype video session for those nationally and internationally. Jules would love to serve as your guide into living your dreams. Go to creativeguidedimagery.com or call 951-201-2166. That's creativeguidedimagery.com.
You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network, heard by millions worldwide through 38 internet radio stations and in over 135 countries. Be sure to sign up for your monthly updates and get all the latest information on LOA radio events such as cruises, workshops, and seminars, as well as information on the latest shows, topics, and guests. Go to LOARadionetwork.com and sign up today.
Well, welcome, Daryl Smith, to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. Thank you so much for being on. I'm so looking forward to discussing this very important topic today.
Thank you for having me, Jules. So I run an education platform called Empath Education, which you've seen online. There are courses in spirituality, psychology, and mysticism, and meditation. So I've been a meditator for 5 years now, and it's just improved my life tremendously. So I'm teaching the ancient techniques from Raja Yoga from India, the 8 stages to reach a samadhi bliss state union of the brain, mind, and body. I'm also teaching the psychology around that, the psychological transformations which occur as you begin to meditate and as you begin to delve into your ego and your shadow and subconscious mind. There's a module in there on that course which teaches about binaural frequency for brainwave entrainment, using frequencies in headphones to calibrate the two hemispheres of the brain to induce meditative states. But the flagship program is the adult course. So a little bit about me. I was a course manager for a private college in the UK. I ran an A-level program in music production, so sound engineering. I used to teach music theory, music composition, sound engineering, composing for film and TV, and music business.
Wow.
And I had the most successful program out of 9 colleges in the country for that business. I had the highest attendance and highest pass rates. And it was because I used to teach my students how their brain works, how their mind works, how to manage their mental and emotional well-being. And that's why they all turned up and got distinctions, right? So coming from that business and starting Empath Education, I've just distilled everything I know into these programs to give people what they need to know, what I needed to know as a young adult, which it took me 10 years to learn this stuff. But the new course is the Spiritual Awakening course. I just completed this in March. I've been through a spiritual awakening myself, 5 years into it now, and it can be one of the most grueling experiences people go through in their life. Really? Shedding the ego, right? Shedding the ego and going through the dark night of the soul, realizing the world isn't what you thought it was, you aren't what you thought you were. And there are a lot of metaphysical principles around that as energy starts to shed and things start to change in routines and patterns. And I'm teaching all about this. It's all grounded in depth psychology, because that's all we have really. We only have psychology. So I'm teaching the psychology from India from 6,000 years ago, the Ayurvedic science of a spiritual awakening. I'm teaching alchemy from the 1500s, what the alchemists were saying about alchemical stages of transmutation. I'm also teaching about astrology on there. There's a module on astrology and astrological conditioning. So that course is designed to help people orient themselves towards becoming their highest versions of themselves, right?
Oh, wonderful. Well, there is a particular reason I wanted to bring you on.
Yes.
What I just saw shocked me. And it was on Facebook. And it was this actor who is promoting Satan's shoes.
Ah, yes.
And they're filled with blood. In the soul, there's blood, real blood.
Yep, I know about this. Yep.
You do know about this. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking, okay, what the heck? Now, I've been a very spiritual person. I do believe in Christianity, but I never really put 2 and 2 together with the devil. It just never popped up. And now it hit me in the face going, holy cow, there are people out there. And these shoes, there were 666 shoes.
Yeah. I'd like to break this down. I've analyzed it.
Please.
So Lil Nas is he's a music artist, you know. Now, what we need to know is that Hollywood and these big record labels, they are controlled by Illuminati, you know, societies and black magicians. So the artist himself, Lil Nas, he's just been given the platform to play a role and perform, right? Now, what's interesting is that Nike have come out and said that they are going to sue him because he did not have permission to modify all those shoes. Right. So they are apparently distancing themselves from him. He made $500,000 selling those shoes. I'll talk a little bit about the symbolism and the blood and all of that. But Nike are now saying they're going to sue him because he didn't have the rights to use their product in that way. Now, what I think is that, well, it's a big money maker for both of them, for Nike and for him, you know, because it's got the whole world looking in at them. But this is essentially what black magic is. So black magic is the principle of overriding the will of somebody else. Now, the fact that Lil Nas is promoting Satan in his video, I saw that he said a comment about this, that because he's a gay man, he was condemned by the church and condemned by Christians. So this was his kind of like rebellion to show that, you know, he can flaunt and be himself, right? And he's doing it in this facetious way, and it's quite funny when you watch the video. Also, I think the music is really silly and dumb. You know, I'm a musician myself, I'm a composer. And when I listen to the frequencies and the melodies and the hooks in these artists' songs, I think it's very dumb. It's very monotonous, and it's kind of hypnotizing, but that's what they're going for, because sound and vibration is a frequency which does program and embed into our minds and programs our cellular vibration, right? So there's that element to it. But you see, whether or not he is worshipping Satan and whether or not Satan's a real deity, we don't know. But what I do know is that these Illuminati societies and this elite cabal, they are worshipping entities in other dimensions. They're worshipping spirits and entities in other dimensions that do things for them, that bring them energy, right? But you see, all these industries are essentially black magic. You know, I even say the meat industry is black magic because it's overriding the will of another being. You know, it's the transference of fear and suffering of that being into a product, and the transference of energy into money, right? But then we get that as some people who eat meat get that as an energy source as well for their body. Right. So, you know, I look at all of these things from that perspective. See, black magicians in the 1300s, you know, all these wizards, they would live in spire towers and they'd have their minions and they would cast spells. But now the wizards are people who own corporations and own factories, and, you know, they have all their minions doing the bidding for them. But Hollywood and the music industry is just the same. The problem is the fact that we have all of this imagery in our faces, right? And the real problem is that it's targeted at the children, at the youth. They're listening to this music, they think it's cool, they think it has some symbolism and some meaning, which they are adopting into their own identities. And it's very fun because viscerally, that music video for Lil Nas, it's very viscerally enthralling, right? And it's gripping, you know, I think the music's silly, but the video, there's a lot of effort that's gone into that. So let me tell you something. I watched this podcast in America of these hip hop artists, and they said they had a letter written to them by a very successful, big named artist in the 90s. He was a rapper. And he said he was invited with all the other artists on that label to a mansion in Hollywood. And they were presented by a man in a suit in a meeting who said, we own the record label and we also own the private prison business. Now we are getting government contracts to fill these private prisons. What we need you to do as artists is to cast the message of anger, fear, violence, to get people behaving in that way, to fill up these prisons. And then the artists were given an opportunity to get a stake in those private prison businesses. So it just shows you what these industries like, these mainstream music industries. It's all predicated on fear and suffering, black magic essentially.
And that is black magic. Mm-hmm. Because what I'm finding, and I normally don't get fearful, but when I saw those shoes, I got very fearful. I got scared.
Well, it's an illusion, Jules. You know, it's just a product. There's some symbology on there, and it invokes fear in you. But that's exactly what they want, right?
The fact that some people are purchasing them because they sold out in a matter of minutes,
and they were reselling them for high prices,
$1,000. Yeah. So it's like, okay, who are the ones that are buying this and why? So it's like a major civilization upturn.
yeah, but I also do believe that a lot of people are just into, you know, people collect figures, and, you know, people love the Marvel universe and Star Wars and all sorts of stuff like that. And I just think people like to collect things, especially, you know, shoe collectors. They collect Nike shoes, and it's a limited edition shoe. So I think on some level, some people are just, they don't realize what's really happening, what the context is of that service and that transaction, right? So there's a lot of symbology embedded into it, which is where, you know, people like me and you see deeper into it, and we see what it's actually doing, the cause and effect upon society and population with the programming, that black magic programming.
Yeah, because it's actually making the dark side a normal
more
occurrence.
apparent. Yeah,
Yeah.
more apparent, and they're trying to normalize it.
Yeah. It's like,
And they do
what
this
the
with,
heck?
yeah, well, they do this with the music, right? You look at
Yeah.
all the main artists, and it's, you know, it's all about sexuality and talking about drugs and, you know, all this stuff, which is actually, I think it is spiritual warfare. I did talk about that WAP song by, I forgot the artist's name, I don't even know her name, but I did talk about this when it came out, and, you know, it's targeted at children again, this kind of music, and it's programming the minds of children to think that this behavior and this attitude is normal and accepted. So I'll talk a little bit about how this actually affects the psychology of people. It's all about ego. See, the Western capitalist society is predicated on ego. The ego is the self-identity, our sense of I, and the ego operates on fear. We fear not being loved, we fear not having value, we fear not fitting in. So the whole matrix of society is predicated upon that, so that the ego can be aggrandized. Now, when we have principles like all this satanic black magic, you know, put into the music, and the kids are listening to it, well, it's just solidifying their sense of I, and that they're different, and that they can have an attitude, and they can be defiant, right? I think that's what's happening on a psychological level, that we're seeing more defiance and more attitude problems with the young. You know, I used to teach in a college and teach young teenagers, and the music they're listening to, it is aggressive. I mean, Jules, I'm a guitarist, I play in a rock metal band, right? And the reason I play in that style of music is because the tones and the distortion on the guitar, this shapes the rhythms, that touches a part of me, you know, my deeper, darker emotions. And music is an alchemical process, right? But you see these record labels, which are pushing all of this monotonous, like weird pop music with all this imagery, the people aren't realizing the powerful effects it actually has on the subconscious mind and the programming which occurs there. Because now it's becoming normal that, oh, this guy can, you know, play with the devil, and then that gets people curious, doesn't it? It gets people curious on the fact that, well, perhaps the devil's real, perhaps Satan's real, perhaps I should get into that. And that is just like what's tearing society apart, right? Now, I think that Christianity has been pushed to the fringes in this new age. I think a lot of people are having a spiritual awakening where they are coming away from religion. They're coming away from religions because it has too much dogma and too many rules,
Sure,
which don't necessarily apply to a postmodern Western society, right? Because how many Christians have had premarital sex when premarital sex is condemned in the Bible? So you see what I mean there, that it's all good, but we take what suits us, but we can't apply all of it. So people are having a spiritual awakening now, right? And they're beginning to realize that there are forces of light and forces of dark, and this isn't necessarily Jesus and the devil. Right. This is movements of consciousness, movements within groups of people. And there are some very powerful people at the top of this dominance hierarchy in this Western capitalist society. That's the people who run the banks, you know, and who fund the government and sway things and control narratives. And I'll just explain a little bit about that dominance hierarchy, right? So we think it's the most intelligent people that climb to the top of corporations and become politicians and presidents and prime ministers. But it isn't intelligence, it's conscientiousness and competence. Now, the most conscientious people climb to the top of these roles, right, where they're leading other people. Now, the difference between intelligence and conscientiousness: intelligence is the ability to think abstractly, but conscientiousness is the ability to implement abstract ideas. Now, to be conscientious or extremely conscientious, you have to be devoid of empathy. Because me and you, Jules, we might not do so well managing a business with thousands of people and having to sack like 500 people.
Yeah.
You'd feel that in your heart. You'd have a hard time doing that. But you see these people, these CEOs, these heartless CEOs who are very conscientious and they have no problem doing that because, well, who are the most conscientious people who are devoid of empathy? Psychopaths and sociopaths, because the part of their brain, the amygdala, which processes emotion and it connects to the central nervous system, the part of their brain isn't working as our brains work. So they aren't feeling empathy and they aren't perceiving the way we perceive. So these people at the top of this dominance hierarchy aren't really feeling anything, which is why I think to a degree that the Satanism and Luciferianism and all of this stuff, it's all just a packaging, the metaphysical, spiritual, symbolic packaging around what their true practices are. The true practices of occultism and magic. Magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. I think all of that is just a light show around what they're actually doing. What they're actually doing is getting people to behave in certain ways, right? We're all being programmed to behave in certain ways, and we're being programmed to fight and disagree with each other, which is one of their tactics. It's divide to conquer, which is why they use the music industry to do this, to get the youth defiant and rebellious against. But you know, that's an issue in itself. The youth, everyone's qualifying with degrees now and master's degrees, but they can't get jobs, right? Because the market's so saturated. And so that's another problem we need to fix. You know, I'm trying to cast light on this and bring awareness to this, and we need to fix this and find some resolutions here. But yeah, there's a spiritual war going on right now, right? And we're all waking up to realize all this stuff.
Well, some of the kids, though, today, they will eventually grow out of it, won't they? I mean, that's what I've experienced, just seeing the progression of my grandkids. They get older and they sort of move on.
Yeah, it's a
dealing
phase,
with real life.
It's a phase. You know, I had a phase when I was a young teenager listening to all sorts of styles of music, which I wouldn't listen to now. You know, it just served me for that time. But in this phase that people are going through, it's like, what is the cause and effect of that?
Yeah.
What is the true cause and effect of that phase, and how much damage is it going to cause? You know, people are being told, you know, that people are searching for meaning, but they're not being told how to discover that meaning, are they? They're just being told, go on YouTube, go on Netflix, gambling, pornography, fast food, all this stuff. It's addiction, right? And I think a lot of young people are starting to wake up, because through the lockdowns of last year, especially in the UK, and we're still in lockdown, people have exhausted those endless streams of entertainment and gratification. And I think people are searching for a higher transcendent meaning in their lives, thinking this can't be it, this can't be everything, right? So people are starting to wake up a little bit to say, hold on a minute, things aren't really what they seem. And this is astrologically predicated, because we did enter the age of Aquarius on the 21st of December 2020.
Yes, that's right.
The conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which the Mayans described as the age of Aquarius and a new golden age for consciousness. You know, the planets and astrology, it really does determine the movements within consciousness and what's occurring within us. And for anybody who isn't sure of astrology, I use this concept that the full moon, when it's illuminated, it creates the ocean tides because it has a gravitational pull on the earth. Now, we are 70% water. Our brain chemistry, our hormones, and our biochemical frequency is all predicated by the moon and its cycles, right? And police get training on this in the UK. They get astrological training because it's known that most crimes are committed on a full moon, because it sends some people just mad, and you know, it's statistically proven. And I spoke to a police officer who told me this, that they get training on that to be aware on a full moon.
Wow.
And we just had a full moon on Sunday in the sign of Libra, a full moon, you know, so full moons are seen as the end of a cycle in the month, and some females do get their ovulation at that time, and you know, so a full moon is seen as the end of a cycle, and it's to release all that emotion. And I definitely felt it on Sunday, the full moon, all this emotion, and you know, my karma coming up in me, thinking about how I've got to this point in my life, and stories of the past, and all those emotional tethers to people. You know, I've had to let go of all of that stuff coming up for release, right? Because that's what the moon helps us to do. But the planets all have, you know, qualities and the condition aspects of consciousness. So as we entered this age of Aquarius, I released a video on my Instagram to tell people what we can expect this year. We can expect more illumination on things, more illumination on the shadows and on the darkness in societies and narratives. We can expect to see more intelligence rising, empathy and compassion rising, right? Which I do believe is happening. I really do believe it's happening. Do you see that happening, Jules?
Yes, I do. I do. But it's slow. It's not as fast as we need it.
Which is why you're doing what you're doing and I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing, right? To
Yeah.
get this message out, to help people to come into awareness of this.
So what can we tell parents who are listening and are nervous about their behavior of their children, especially the teens, and they're going through this and they're like, are they going to be okay?
Yeah, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. You know, my mother was probably terrified, you know, hearing the music that was coming out of my bedroom when I was a teenager, you know, but then she's come to see me play in my rock and metal bands and it's very heavy music, you know, screamy, heavy music. So all I'd say to parents is just be present, just as long as you're present, because nothing can really break that connection between mother and child and father and child, right? It's all about the energy with the children. The children can go off and do drugs and drink alcohol and do all sorts of things, but they'll always return and always ground themselves, because that's how we learn, right? We have to learn by making mistakes and going through phases. And you know, I'm not a parent, but I do understand the empathy that, you know, I wouldn't want my child listening to that music, but I can't control their will. They have free will. They can go and listen to and look at whatever they want, and they can make their own distinctions about it, right? But as long as I'm present and they know who I am and they know my values and how much I care, then I'm going to be confident that that's always going to be a tether which is going to bring them back and ground them. You know, if you plant that seed there, it will blossom.
So what about then what is happening in the future as far as adults and the planet and what we're going through? So it happened on December 21st, the age of Aquarius. Okay, so what are we anticipating for the next couple of months then, as far as aggression or, well, this is just a crazy time in the world.
Yes, yes.
It really is with politics. I don't know if you're following American politics,
I
but
am.
it's totally bizarre.
Yeah.
This is the first time in our history that things are happening like this. We've always had a better understanding of everyday politics, and now it's like totally bizarre.
So I've been following politics closely, American politics closely. Now I think it's necessary that we see this dissolution and we see Biden mess everything up to a degree. And I'm also hearing, you know, counter narratives of what's going on behind the scenes. I don't want to really go into that today, but I will say that those counter narratives do give me hope. What I believe, Jules, is that it's the individual's responsibility to raise their vibration, because we are not separate. When the individual raises their own vibration, it raises the vibration on the planet. And if we can all raise our vibration, we will all ascend to the desired timeline, the desired outcome. But for that to, you know, happen, we just have to see all this stuff happening, all this stuff come out, you know, all this darkness come out. And like last year with the lockdowns in the UK, people are just suffering. 22% of businesses have gone bankrupt, never to recover. People have lost their jobs, you know, anxiety, depression has spiked, drug abuse has spiked, alcoholism, domestic abuse, child abuse, mental illness, all these things have just inflated, right? Because we've just been punished by being isolated. But as a society, I think it's necessary and essential that we see these things now, because we have to come together through humanitarian aims, right, and humanitarian projects to give energy to these things. And I think in a weird way, you know, it's going to bring us closer together. I've suffered myself with, depression throughout last year, as of many people. And we're going through a collective dark night of the soul right now. But we need to purge that inner darkness and see our wounds and see our suffering and bring it to the surface of our awareness, right? So that we can actually consciously decide to take action and do something about it. Now, I don't want...
Excuse me, just for a second. Couldn't that action be something as simple as taking off the damn mask?
Yes, yeah, and to be honest, I've never worn one. I never wear one when I go to supermarkets, and when I'm asked, I say I have a medical exemption, and they say, okay, that's what you need to say, right?
They don't accept it over here, but
well, hopefully things change. You see, I just stand firm in my vibration, firm in my belief and my will that I'm safe, I'm radiating positive energy, and I think people can pick up on that, right?
Right.
So I don't get challenged. But yeah, with the mask thing, yeah, and people just need to take off their, let's talk about the psychological mask, the identity, the persona people are wearing. People need to shed that too, and be real and stop pretending, that everything's okay, and they need to face themselves. So
what I'm discovering is that people are feeling more and more comfortable with that mask they're hiding behind.
Yeah.
And they don't have to project themselves. And I see that as a major detriment as well. They don't realize that they're hiding behind it. So a lot of people are so comfortable with that they're just fearful of having it removed. And that's a sad state.
It's becoming normalized, isn't it? It's becoming normalized now. So when I look at this and I look at the psychology of a general person, the ego, it's all ego-based activity, because the ego is fearful. The ego doesn't want to be hurt. So people believe that, just wearing the mask is going to protect them from getting a deadly virus and dying from it. When it's scientifically proven that masks don't work.
They don't work.
They don't work. So this is all just a control mechanism to override the will of the people, which is black magic,
It is
hypnotizing people to do something that they wouldn't normally do. But you see, people just believe the mainstream media and believe the news and believe what people on a screen are telling them for the most part, don't they? Because it's just drilled and repetition. Through repetition, it's drilled into their minds, and so they believe it, and they trust the experts and trust the science and all of that stuff. But it just isn't the case that masks work. So
do you think then we should do a movement of having people gather without masks going to certain locations?
Well, they have been doing that here in the UK. We just had a protest the other weekend in London. Over 100,000 people marched to the centre of London, to protest for freedom of our rights and liberties. And, no one was wearing a mask. So it's just, that was just a protest against fear, essentially.
Yeah, well, people are getting arrested here for not wearing a mask. They just arrested a pregnant woman for not wearing a mask. It's just like, okay, this has got to stop. So what you would suggest then is that we get in large groups of people and just don't wear the mask.
Try it, see what happens. I'm sure it will inspire more people to eliminate fear, right?
You know what? You're right. It would inspire more people.
Yeah, so it just takes one person. It just takes one person. And when I'm in a supermarket here in the UK and I see many other people not wearing masks now, and I give that person a nod to acknowledge, because I know they're essentially in the same vibration of me, which is not fear. It is strength of will and vibration and love and peace, and haven't got time for any of that other stuff.
That's good. Now, I was just talking even on Facebook that I have not met a person that has been sick with COVID for the entire year. I just haven't. Well, wait, I take that back. There's one person, but nobody else has been sick. So I'm not seeing the effects. I'm not fearful because I haven't seen anybody that really got it.
Yeah.
But yet people are critical of me of even saying that. Boy, I really get yelled
Yeah.
at. And it's
Well,
like, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Where is it?
well, the problem is the mask is a virtue signal. And it's also a virtue signal to have empathy and to care about the elderly and people dying from this virus, isn't it? But you see, what these people don't know is that 8 million people died of starvation in 2019. 2 million people died of coronavirus in 2020, thereabouts. So, you know, what are we doing about that? Why are people not, you know, empathetic and virtue signaling about that? See, so you just need to
You got
think
to put
about
it
these
in
actual facts
perspective.
and these
Yeah.
contexts and put it in perspective.
Good point. Good point. So I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot of people talking to me about this,
Well,
but that's
fine.
okay. If you disagree, that's fine. But it's time that we move forward in life. We cannot be isolated anymore. We can't be hiding behind a mask anymore. And if you're in agreement with that, then you need to go and stay in your house.
Everybody is free to do what they want to do, right? But we
Right.
have to respect everybody's choice.
Right.
So here's the other argument, right? The other argument is that if you have the vaccine, you are protected from becoming seriously ill from contracting the virus, but it doesn't mean that you can't contract the virus or spread it. You can still get the virus and spread it even after having the vaccine. So what's the point? What's the point of everyone having the vaccine? If you're vaccinated, you're okay. If I'm not vaccinated, well, you're protected from getting seriously ill anyway. So you don't need to worry about me. So I don't understand all the, you know,
I don't
stuff of
either.
that.
And that is a very, very well put, what you just said, because there is the thing. I have to admit, I am not vaccinated and I choose not to be. But I'm also, I don't think that I'm unhealthy, that I'm going to spread anything.
Well, you look very well, my dear.
Oh, thank you. A person of my age.
You see, I believe that you attract what you are. This is the law of attraction, right?
Law of attraction.
Spiritual people always talk about manifesting and attracting, but they don't understand that that aura is the cellular vibration in their body and their neurochemistry and their will and their thoughts and their emotions. So, you know, if you just strengthen your will and strengthen your vibration, no harm will come to you.
And you do that by meditating. Is
Every
that correct?
day. Yes, every day. Every day. And every day when I meditate, I think of sending love out to everybody and love out to my friends and family. And magically, Jules, I see things getting better for those people. I see, you know, our relationships become more harmonious and things just flow better. You know,
so you're sending out those vibes to them.
A lot of meditators are. A lot of meditators are. You know, meditation is proven to change like frequencies in the brain and the body, you know, to heal the self. And, you know, that's essentially what magic is and the law of attraction is. People always think about manifesting and they read the book, The Secret, right? And so they get a vision board and they put like a Ferrari up on the vision board and, you know, they're trying to embed this stuff into their subconscious minds because they want a Ferrari or something. But, you know, it's much more intelligent to think about, you know, imagining like health and well-being and love and abundance and peace for yourself, because when you're in that vibration, you attract everything you need, you know, and God aligns everything for you that you need. You know, who needs a Ferrari? But you know, I just think it's better to focus on the things which are actually going to help us in the present moment move forward to be of greater service to others, right? And to make this world a better place.
So if we were to take your education course, what would we get out of it? What would, because I believe I'm an empath. What would I gain from it? I would have a better understanding.
Okay. Right, so it depends which course you want to take. There's the spiritual awakening course, there's the adult course, and there's the meditation course. So all of them are grounded in depth psychology. So they all the modules have learning assessments, because I'm encouraging self-inquiry. I'm encouraging people to write about their own experiences in relation to the topic shared, because when you write or type, you actually restructure pathways in the brain. You're restructuring yourself, okay? You're recalibrating yourself. In the adult course, there's even a module on healing trauma, a psychotherapy technique to heal trauma by doing this process. I've done it and it's worked. I've taught my friends how to do it, and they've healed things that would just come back up, traumatic experiences they couldn't let go of. I've taught them to do this psychotherapy technique, and they say that they feel free of it and they no longer think about it anymore. So I'm teaching this stuff. So to be an empath, we're very highly sensitive, aren't we? We're very highly sensitive and highly tuned to all the gradient energy around us, and we pick up on the aura and the energy of other people, right? So my courses, they work for empaths, but they work for anybody. You're going to get a fully fledged grounding in psychology and how to manage your own mental and emotional well-being with things you didn't know, things about how your brain works, how your psychology works, about how your neurotransmitters work, how to maintain those things. I'm teaching all the science and philosophy around that as well.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And it sounds like it's something everybody, regardless of what they want to do, it's something that they all need to understand, because that's our personal growth.
Yeah, and it's not being taught in colleges or schools in the UK here. That's why I had a very successful program for that private business, because I was teaching this stuff in conjunction with music. I was saying to my students, you want to become a successful music artist, but you need to get the fundamental stuff right. Once you get the fundamental stuff right, the psychology, and how your brain works, everything else is just going to fall into place and align.
Exactly. So that is the law of attraction. The law of attraction is going to fall in place. People are, they say it doesn't work for me. Well, it does. You're just not knowing how to work it. And you have got a path that you can show people through the meditation, through these techniques, everything. This is how they can fully engage, and
how they can self-actualize, right?
There you go.
Become the highest versions of themselves.
Yeah,
so you
that's
see,
brilliant.
People are thinking the wrong things, they're eating the wrong things, they're drinking the wrong things, they're in habitual patterns and loops that they just can't break out of. But I think when some people, and people who've done my courses have told me, the course has been life-changing for them, because they've realized all this habitual programming and they're starting to make changes now. I think once people realize this stuff and actually become consciously aware, instead of unconsciously just having that propensity to satiate the habits, which keep their life in a perpetual loop, they actually ascend, karmically, vibrationally, they're ascending to a higher timeline within their life to meet the highest version of themselves.
And like you said at the beginning, when you're eating an animal, you're ingesting their fear. You're taking on that fear of those being slaughtered.
A cow knows when it's being led into slaughter. It knows. And just imagine the adrenaline and the fear energy vibrating through every cell in that animal's being before it has its throat slit. That's the fear energy. And you're
eating that fear.
But people are eating that. And see, I think scientifically, this is how it works. If you're eating like a steak, say, and it's full of that fear energy, the body's picking up on that and it's breaking down all the nutrients and amino acids, but all of that energy, but also it's keeping the body in a primal state, in a carnivorous primal state, which is a lower vibration within consciousness. It keeps people in that primitive primal brain programming where they are more aggressive, more fearful, and more ego, more within the ego, right? Which is just a trap, essentially.
That makes sense. So you're covering all aspects of living, and that's what's important, and that's what people have got to start to grasp. If we're going to shift on an upward trend, these are the things that we have to do, and we've got to start now, because it's not getting better out there unless we do something about us.
There's a spiritual war. This is World War III, and it's a spiritual war, Jules. And there are people who are controlling this societal matrix with narratives and all these spells, right? And let me tell you something about this. So we know these Masonic societies at the top, they're worshipping entities and deities in other dimensions who are doing things. Well, Christians call these demons, Muslims call these jinns. Well, essentially what they are entities in other dimensions, and Buddhism depicts this very clearly. In the wheel of samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth, it says there are 6 chambers. I'll start from the bottom. There's the demonic realm with discarnate spirits who are full of rage and act on rage, perversion, lust, anger, hatred. There's the realm of the hungry ghosts, ghosts who are addicts, who they have a void in themselves. They cannot satiate. They constantly want pleasure and attention and all the things we have in the material realm. And I suspect a lot of poltergeists are those discarnate, hungry ghosts that want energy from us, right? I'll explain a little bit more about that. Then there's the animal realm. Animals have, well, they're just in a constant state of survival and fear because it's a predatory realm. They're in constant fear of being eaten, okay? So their base instincts, which we share with them, is to survive, procreate, eat, mate, and all that stuff. Then there's the human realm, and this is considered the greatest gift in the whole wheel of samsara. Incarnation here is the greatest gift because we can change our vibration. We are not stuck. A demon is stuck in its vibration. A discarnate spirit is stuck in its vibration in a metaphysical vibratory realm. Now, in the human realm, we can choose. We can go anywhere with our vibration. We can take our mind and emotions anywhere, which is why I think those spirits interfere with this realm, because they crave what we have. They crave all the carnal pleasures of the material realm. So above the human realm, we have the Asura realm, which is where angels and deities are fawned upon. And, you know, in Christianity, it talks about angels, and a lot of people have experiences with their spirit guides and angels. Above that is the God realm, where the gods reside. But the gods are running out of karma because they're not doing anything right. They're in heaven, and they're just, getting everything they desire like kings, but they're not doing anything to help the people. So they're running out of karma and their time's running out. So the focus is on the human realm. So we are really learning in this golden age to get our vibration right, learning all these spiritual principles. And, a lot of people do have poltergeist experiences and, spirits coming into their home and messing about. And that's because their vibration and their will and their aura is so diminished that it's attracting these discarnate spirits. So if anyone's ever had sleep paralysis, have you ever had sleep paralysis, Jules?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and you've seen a dark, shadowy figure? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we all see them. And that's when we're anxious, we're depressed, we're exhausted, we're fatigued. The brain-mind-body connection is withered. In sleep paralysis, between a waking state and a sleep state, the brain is resonating in a frequency, a REM state, where we enter the astral realm, and these spirits are attracted to our energy. Now, these spirits come from these lower vibrational realms to feed off our energy, fear energy, and it's called loosh. Now, these elite cabals are farming us for loosh, which is why they use the mainstream media, and they're using this whole thing that they're experiencing right now to get us all resonating in fear, because their entities they worship are feeding off this energy. Okay. So I'm reminding people to strengthen your vibration, eat well, stay hydrated, be in the vibration of love, because there'll be things that will come into your life and mess around otherwise.
Okay, so that's what happened. And it just happened a few nights ago when I saw those devil shoes.
Right, okay.
That happened to me, and I had horrible dreams about what a terrible person I am all night, about me and just I was just a horrible person.
Well, that's an inflection, isn't it, into the subconscious self and your own shadow within yourself. So I said earlier, the shoe is an illusion. What,
Right.
what they're doing with their symbology, and so it's just illusion. It's just a light show,
Right.
but it's actually our inference we draw from it, which affects our spiritual energy. So I'm saying, don't pay attention to it. It's just, laugh at it. It's just a joke, right? And greater things are happening in the world. More terrible things are happening than that, Jules.
Yeah,
Children are
right.
being trafficked from all over the world. People are being trafficked, and terrible things are happening. So
Yeah.
we think, well, are we powerless to do anything? Well, I think no, we aren't. We're coming together. You're doing this show, I'm doing shows, and we're raising the vibration by casting awareness on all this stuff. And that vibration is love. When everyone's in the vibration of love, and love doesn't mean attachment. In the West, we tend to think it's a romantic attachment, but we know what happens with romantic attachments when they fall apart and then we're heartbroken. That's not love. That's infatuation. That's lust. Love is a state of being. Love is unconditional, okay? If you truly love somebody, you will let them go if they don't want to be with you, because you are love, right? If you realize that. And this is what the Hindus and the Buddhists say, that to reach enlightenment, it's realizing that. So when we're in love as a state of being, it's unconditional, okay? And when we can be in that state and just, if things come, let them. If things go, let them. We just know that on a metaphysical level, subtly, things will start to improve, and the shift will happen in our lives and for the lives of our loved ones when we eliminate fear, right?
Right. And being conscious of that. So when you
Mhm.
feel it, know that that's the moment that you have to really start letting go and turn inward. You have to start meditating at
Yeah.
that time. That's not something that you can put off.
No. A lot of people are seeking the answers now. They're seeking a higher transcendent principle now, aren't they? So a lot of people are gravitating towards these techniques and this knowledge. And this is why I designed Empath Education. It's taken me 4 years to do this since I left my
Wow.
post as a teacher to do this. And I've worked in the civil service as a government agent. And I've went back to teaching last year until the lockdown and the schools closed. So I've had time to do this and get these courses distilled, and they're dynamic experiences which take people on a course to realize some things they didn't realize about themselves before, and to actually utilize some techniques to implement changes in their lives. But this is like 10 years worth of my life I've consolidated, which I'm trying to get out there to as many people as possible, because I believe the world's just going to improve. And if we learn all the right things, learn all the right tools, and have all the right knowledge, then wonderful things will start to happen around that.
Wonderful. And I really want to send people to your school. And they can get there by going to, what is your email address? I mean, your
the URL, it's empatheducation.me. So empatheducation.me. That's the address.
.me. Okay. And Daryl, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This is
thank you, Jules.
so informative. We really didn't talk about the law of attraction, but yet we did in
We'll
every
talk
breath.
about that next time. Next time,
Yeah, I got to have you back on. So wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com, and have a great week.